Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this episode, since we got no records of this car, we're going to be doing a major service. We're going to be doing engine oil, gearbox oil, transfer case, front and rear diff, and antifreeze, because the antifreeze smells amazingly shit. So let's get to it. Alright, so let's see how much of a mess we're going to make. Oh yes, look at that trick. Yeah, that definitely looks like it was in need of an oil change, so good thing we're doing it. I'm going to use sump washer and use some plug as well. While that's draining, what we're going to do is remove our oil filter, which is here underneath the exhaust manifold. And as you can see, if anything drops from here, we're going to catch it down there. As you can see, it's dripping down and we're catching all of that, so we're not going to make a mess on the drive. At least whoever did the last oil change with a nice oil filter, which is exactly what we're putting on. Normally what you can do is fill up your oil filter with oil and then put it in, but as you can see what it is down there, if I fill it up, you're just going to tip over and everything is going to come down, so there's no point. Normally with these oil filters, you only need to put them in hand tight. Make sure it's nice and tight and flush with the engine, but doesn't have to go crazy on them. Here we go, a new plug and a new washer, which, if I didn't mention before, is a 17mm. So let's just pop that back in. Nice and tight. This is the oil that we're going to be using. Our engine needs 3.9 litres and our oil filter I think is between 0.3 and 0.4 litres, so we're going to have to put around 4.2, 4.3 inside, and let's see how that goes. We just put 4 litres of oil. What we're going to do now is check our dipstick as well. We're going to have to charge our oil filter, so we're going to have to crank it a couple of times and see what happens. And that's just right, look at that. Next thing we're going to do is replace our front diff oil. Our draining point is down there and our filling point is here. What we're going to be using is this 10mm square head sump plug, if you want to call it. So let's get to it. You might experience that it might be quite tight and it might not be as easy as that one to come out. So what I did, and as long as you are mindful doing it, you can do it yourself as well. I use a bit of my friend here. Don't know if you can see it. That one there. And then as soon as it got a bit warm, it just came off. When you're buying diff oil or gearbox oil, if you can find this system, it will make your life so much easier. Otherwise, you're gonna have to find something like this, a pump, that you can actually screw on this and then pump it into the diff. If you wonder how you know when it's full, well, basically that tells you that it's full. When it gets to that bottom of the actual hole and it starts dripping down, that means that it's full. Alright, this is our gearbox, this is our draining point, so we're going to crack that open and then I'm going to show you where it's actually our filling point. It's a bit concerning the amount of metal shaving that actually cleaned from this sun plug. But to be honest with you, the clutch is quite high, so when you depress the clutch you can hear it touching. So we might gonna have to do a clutch on this, or I heard as well that the gearbox on this one's are a bit of like a chocolate box. So we'll see. Here's a sun plug for the gearbox, and our filling point is going to be right here. If you look at it, there's not a lot of space for us to be able to put our bottle there, so we might actually going to have to use the pump for this one. There is enough space for the ratchet and for the socket, but that's about it really. As I said to you before, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get this nipple in the filling point, so what we're going to do is remove this and attach the pump. As you can see, this is a draining point for a transfer case, so we're going to remove that, let it drain, and then I'll show you on this side where a filling point is. What we're going to do is remove the filling plug, which is right here, and it's the same process as the gearbox. We're going to put it until it pours down, and then we know it's full. I believe the transfer case takes 0.9 litres, so it shouldn't take long. For the transfer case, we're going to be using the same oil we use for the gearbox, so it's going to be 75W90. So let's get a bottle of that, put it in and see how much it takes. Now that we've done the engine oil, the two diffs, the gearbox and the transfer case, we're going to replace our coolant. So what we're going to do is this. I remove the cap from the radiator, and now we come under the car and we look at our radiator, as you can see right there, and we try to find this plug that you're going to see there, that one there. That one is a draining point. Sometimes if you can't find that, what you can do is just remove that pipe that you can see right there. Sorry about the sun. That pipe right there, remove that, and that's gonna empty it kind of the same way anyway. As you can see, this is an overflow tank. So what it is when a radiator gets, as the name says, overflown, there's a hole right there, just like a pinhole right here, that it goes through all this pipe and it comes back to this tank. So what we're going to do is take this tank off from that bracket, we're going to clean it, and then we're going to put it back on. Once we reach the top of the radiator, what we're going to have to do is run it to get rid of any bubbles that there might be in the system because we drain it. Another thing that you can do to make sure that that coolant it goes through the whole system and actually bleeds out is put your blowers on, and that will help the system to make sure that it gets to every single pipe and to make sure that it puts every bubble, air bubble out. Once you bled your coolant and it ain't leaking, your engine isn't leaking, your diffs aren't leaking, your transfer case isn't leaking, and your gearbox isn't leaking, go for a test drive, see how the car feels. It might feel a bit better. Maybe if it was doing a bit of a grinding noise, maybe the oil will help. Not always does, but sometimes it does, and in my case it does feel a bit better. The clutch is still quite high for my taste, to be honest, so that might be coming soon. Hopefully not too soon, so we can enjoy the car at least in summer. And apart from that, when you come back from the road test, let it settle for a bit and check the levels, see if you need to add a bit more oil and see if you need to add a bit more coolant, and just repeat the process until you're happy with that. And apart from that, I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, thank you for liking if you do, and I shall see you very shortly.